Hi, and welcome to Warrior Women Business episode 50. My name is Jasmine Sandler. For those of you that aren't familiar with Warrior Women in Business, Warrior Women in Business is a podcast, event, and conference series that's all about bringing female leaders and women that have been there and done that to female entrepreneurs. And I'm really excited to have my guest today, Eva Mueller, and I personally think the best photographer in New York City. Eva, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Now I'm blushing hard.
Yeah, she's just amazing. Not only is she a great photographer, a friend, and does wonderful things to help women in the arts and in business. So I thought I'd have Ava on today. It's a very special month. This is Women's History Month. And this month, we're talking to women that have kind of been there, done that are not just shedding the light on women's history, but doing it in an ongoing fashion. So I thought I'd start by asking you a little bit, Ava, about how did you get into what you do today? Talk to us a little bit about your flair for photography, where you come from, and your intention.
I come from fashion photography because that was my passion when I started out. I wanted to be a fashion photographer so badly, and I was a fashion photographer until about 10 years ago. Then I shifted to fine art and portraiture because I prefer to photograph real people, not just models, but people with stories and people,
Yes,
like real people.
real people. And you make real people models pretty much.
Yes, I do.
So talk to us a little bit, because, being on the other end of the camera, right? People must get like shy and a little bit weird, and not everybody loves to get their picture taken. So how do you find that? First of all, let's talk about the difference maybe between men and women and how they approach the camera, and how you help your subjects really fall in love with the camera and what you do.
I work pretty fast. I try to work fast and I try to make the session as pleasurable as possible.
Mm.
So a lot of times I get from people, oh my God, that was more fun than I expected, or that it was easier than I expected.
Mm.
And I just also wanted to point out that I'm trying not to be too binary with the genders because I'm non-binary myself.
Right.
So I do pride myself in providing a safe space for everybody of all
Absolutely.
genders and in between, and any orientations and identities. So because there is often women are more self-conscious than men, but also queer folk also often feel not being seen or heard. So I'll try to really see and hear my clients and just bring out the beauty in them that they often don't know they have.
Yeah, and it's really important, right? Today, everybody needs their picture taken. Everybody needs to be on video. I mean, that's the business that I'm in, right? Personal branding. And I find that I love that you have the safe space, right? So let's talk about some of the reasons why your clients come to you. Like, why do they need their picture taken? What do you hear?
It's often for professional reasons, their website, actors. Also, some people just want to explore how they would look. Also, I get women before mastectomy, which is kind of very heavy
Interesting.
because
Oh,
they
it's very
want
emotional.
they want their
Oh,
their breasts recorded before they possibly go away or before they getting reconstructed. That's also an
wow.
area that it's emotional, but I feel very blessed that I get that trust from people.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember you took a picture of me in the bathroom where I was changing into a new outfit, and I said no one could do that but Ava. So no. On all serious note, yeah, I mean, people aren't, not everybody loves their body or loves their face, and it takes like to get past that braveness, right? You kind of help them to get comfortable with
Yeah,
you and
to
tell
feel
their
comfortable
story.
and then see like, oh wow, I do look good, and there's the beauty that they haven't seen, because sometimes you just need the outside eye because you always see yourself. You're your own worst critic.
That's true. Absolutely. So let's talk about Women's History Month a little bit, right? It's a really important month. As I said with my last podcast guest, I hate that it's a month. It should just be ongoing, right? Every month is like some new thing. It's like, well, why don't we just celebrate humanity together,
Exactly.
right? So besides that, talk to me about what you see in your world at Women's History Month, kind of what's going on. What do you think about it? How do you think it benefits women? A little bit about that.
It's hard to say, especially after Roe got killed in his country. It's
That's a
pretty
good point.
it's pretty dire. I
That's
mean,
a good
it's
point.
I'm very worried, especially for younger
Ah.
women. What they're facing. What
Mm,
reality they're facing already now. That this
yeah.
is a reality that they don't have a choice
They don't
anymore. They
have
have to like
control. Mm,
travel if they can afford it. I mean, it's really it's pretty hefty, in my
Mm.
opinion. So I know we made progress, but that was a huge step back. I think that was like a
Agreed. Agreed.
real,
Yeah, of
like,
course.
hardcore attack on women's rights.
Mm. So what do you think we can do to help? Not, I mean, we're not in
Vote.
politics, but we can vote, right?
Vote.
Vote. But I meant like more like with our communities and, our networks and just everyday our work. Your work tells stories, right? My work tells stories, right?
Yeah.
We're connected. So what do you think if you could do something individually or, with people that what are some of the things you would think about that can kind of help with women's rights, with people's rights in general?
I mean, we're pretty privileged in New York, so I don't really get a lot of women who are in dire need of something because they can get it here in New York. We
Yeah.
are lucky, because we are like the blue bastion and the how do you call it, the sanctuary city. So in that respect, I can't really say. People are very free in their expression. What they want to do, and I feel, like also, women who come and see me, or female presenting people, they usually live their dream or pursue their dream here. That's why
Mm.
they came to New York.
Yeah, it's interesting. Do you think that they realize that they're pursuing, that they're able to pursue their dreams? Do you think they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
because
really
we're all
nice.
here for a reason. I came from Germany, and like a
Yeah.
lot of my friends or people I meet came from somewhere, and we all, despite the hardship that we have to endure in New York, high rents and a lot of things, and the rat race thing.
Yeah.
But it is still like, there's no city and there's no place like New York. So in that respect, we're all here for a reason, and we know
Living our
why we're
dream.
here, and we're
Right.
staying. Most of us are
Most of
staying.
us. Let's talk about, you've been in business for yourself for quite a while, right?
Hmm.
So, what are some things that you could share for other women that are out there, female entrepreneurs, especially solo entrepreneurs, in terms of some things that you think have helped you, some things that you wish, oh, I knew this earlier, that you wouldn't have had to struggle with as a woman in business?
Don't have much to say that, because I was just blue-eyed and started out, and in fashion also, it seemed like there was not a, at least like not for me, that I felt I was discriminated in any way, or
Huh.
also like that, like people of color were discriminated, because the fashion world is like, it's like,
Mm.
oh, it's like wild and crazy and
Yeah.
everybody, so you're kind of in that bubble,
Yeah.
in a way. Of course, when you get like bigger corporate fashion clients, and it's another thing, then it gets like, very, very white and different. But I never really had those clients. I was always more sort of on the artistic side of things. So
Mm.
you're not really exposed to a lot of those things. And also, like, me personally, I guess because I was so blue-eyed, and I never was thinking in gender, and I never really felt like, oh, I'm a woman, I'm just
Yeah.
like me, I'm a person.
Right.
So I never felt like, oh, I didn't get that job because I'm female. So
Mm.
that never crossed my mind. So, but I know that is a reality for a lot of
Sure.
people. But I don't really have an advice, other than maybe, be your true self, and
Mm.
just, don't get victimized. Just like
Oh,
stand
absolutely.
stand up for
But I
yourself.
mean, as just a business owner, no matter what gender, non-gender,
Yeah, yeah,
as a
yeah.
business owner, and as an entrepreneur, that's kind of what I want to understand in terms of your field. A creative field is very different than a standard business field, right?
Hmm.
So how do you approach business versus doing your creative work, and what do you think has helped you in general business?
You have helped me.
Oh, well, besides me.
I'm not a good person to ask, because the business aspect of my work and my artistic practice is always a challenge for me,
Why is
because
that?
because it's just not something I want to do,
Hmm.
and it's just I find it more difficult to be in that mindset
Yes,
as a
right.
creative. Some of my friends, they have like both part of their brain. They're good at business and at being creative, and I'm not. I admit it. So it's harder than if you are smart about running a business with a business mind.
Yeah. There's many aspects of running a business, right? It's not just doing the work, right? There's the sales end, there's a marketing end, but there's also the operations end. So it's hard, honestly, for any business owner that I've ever met, you know. So talk to me a little bit about in your creative work, right? How are you able to drive up value, do you think, with your clients to sustain your business? Because how long have you had your business?
for a very long time, like over 25 years.
Okay, so how do you think you've been able to sustain it?
It it changed a lot. I mean, it did change a lot, particularly now everybody has an iPhone that's good enough to shoot, good pictures. Everybody has apps and lights,
Yeah.
and so like the values have shifted. For a lot of people,
Mm,
they think because they have the tools they can do everything,
I
and
know.
a lot of people do everything and they don't care about the outcome. So the market for people who appreciate, like, the professionals, whether it's like,
Mm,
a filmmaker or, a real DJ or a photographer, it just got smaller.
yeah. So I would guess that perhaps more that might value this would be more corporate, that are companies that are busy, that are focused on their business. Just like you said, you focus on your creative work and then you look to experts, right? So I would think more corporate, in at least in my experience, they're focused on growing their businesses and they're not focused. They're not going to have a photographer on staff, right?
Right.
They're usually going to bring in photographers or any creative professionals. And I think that's my opinion and what I see in my everyday world is that's where the opportunities can grow as companies are growing, especially in the tech sector, as we were talking about pre-show. Then there's more opportunities for creative professionals, right?
Yeah, and I mean also including actors and musicians who typically don't have a big budget, but I
True.
get clients who do recognize that they need to hire a professional, that it
Absolutely.
benefits them.
Especially, yeah, of course, because they need they need that. That's part of their calling sheet to get jobs and projects, right? Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's really important. So let's talk about you. You mentioned pre-show. I know besides photography, Ava's involved with so many things. um, in the art world, talk a little bit about how you're involved with the New York City in the art world, from curating shows, which I know you do, to helping other artists, which I know you do, and like where that passion comes from.
I find after I left the fashion world, and I gravitated into the art world, like particularly after I moved to Bushwick, because I was surrounded by a very artistic community and a lot of galleries, that I find the community in more authentic in a way. Fashion
Mm,
comes and goes, and in the end, you just help somebody selling clothes, which is okay. But I just lost the interest to that.
mm,
So now I'd say, I mean, I'm part of a big artist family. Like,
mm,
mostly queer, but again, like, the whole spectrum.
mm.
And I started curating shows. I'm I don't pursue that as like a career move, but sometimes when I'm offered that opportunity, it gives me the chance to, like, also curate talented friends and people I know and
Yeah,
whose work I appreciate and give them exposure.
that's really, really nice. And do you so how do you see that since you've been in New York a long time? Have you seen that community grow and strengthen or wane, or how has it changed? Just in general, kind of like
It's
your opinion.
always been there. I
Yeah.
mean, like when I was in fashion, I was not so connected to the art world. But now that I know so many artists who also have been in New York for a very long time, and it's almost like, wow, why didn't I know them then?
Yeah,
Then,
yeah.
and a lot of them, they know each other for a long time. So it's kind of like this web, and I really enjoy that because it's like, it goes through all like ages and genders, and it's really, I enjoy being part of that.
Absolutely. So let's talk about music a little bit, which is my love as a musician. And Ava's done how many photo shoots for my bands or iterations of
Many,
my
yes.
bands?
Always a new
There's
band.
always a new band. I'm never boring. But let's talk about musicians in terms of their needs versus, let's say, actors and visual artists in terms of the photography. Like, uh, I know you do a lot of shoots with DJs also. So just talk to us a little bit about the experience you've had in the music world, where you think the callings are, what's of interest.
It goes from, people just needing a simple shot to also, like, for their art package, for their album package,
Hmm.
and it can get really creative and conceptual. I've done like a lot of shoots for pretty much like any major label. Now it's more like private clients call me, or like the musicians call me directly, and it's still, I mean, sometimes they just want to do something super creative
Yep.
that stands out, and
Yep.
sometimes they just need something for a DJ listing, but we always try to do something creative that catches the eye.
Mm-hmm. So the musicians versus the actors, because we JSM for Artists we serve. So do you see that musicians might need which one of those in the arts field seem to need more repetitive work, or is it like are there any similarities
I
between
mean,
them?
the actors' headshots, they're more a formula.
Ah,
Sometimes, I mean, the people come to me, we usually get creative, but then they also have to have that regular shot that is that's a certain cropping and just a certain expression, because when they
yeah,
go to
right,
castings,
right.
they just they don't want to see something too crazy.
Mm,
So the more creative shoots are definitely for the people in the music business. And then
yeah.
I do also headshots. I photographed a law firm, but they were so well dressed. They were fashion lawyers. They do
Ooh,
intellectual property,
fashion
so
lawyers.
they
Very
showed
cool.
up like,
Good
yeah,
for
very
them.
well dressed, and it was a great shoot. And
Of
it was
course.
like young women, older guys. It was also the whole spectrum, and I think it was like 12 people that I shot. They
That's a
came
lot.
in, and it was great.
And do you ever get tired when when you're doing that? Because I know you're like an energizer bunny.
No, they didn't come all at once. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, no, it's fine.
yeah. And so we're in your space today, right? And we're in Bushwick, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I never know.
Off the L,
Off the L
conveniently
train.
located.
It's a really cool neighborhood, right? So do you tend to do more shoots here, or do you tend to go out to the clients more? What's the mix?
For the headshot clients, usually they come here, but even with the lawyers, because I thought, oh, I'll just go with my setup to their space.
Yeah.
But then they all work remotely, it turned out, so they all came
Interesting.
here. I just had them scheduled. Yeah,
It
that's
is a remote
interesting.
working world. It makes perfect
Exactly.
sense. What about events? Do you get involved with events?
Sometimes it's more. It's not that I'm promoting myself for events. It's I do it when I know people, but it's not anything I would advertise for.
And let's talk about your goals, business goals. Let me get in your business head. Business goals for 2024. Talk to us about that a little bit. What are your own goals for your own business this year?
Mm, to get a steady stream of bookings with clients who appreciate my experience, my skills, and the quality of my work, who try not to haggle me down.
Well, you can't haggle when you're cheap, you get cheap things. I think I went through I don't know how many photographers before I found Eva, and I got to tell you, she's worth every penny. Like it's ridiculous. So, yeah, no, I mean it is about value, and one of the things I talk about on the show and in our events, and as a personal branding coach, is all about raising your value. How many you say you're 20 years plus in the business, you come from the fashion background, right? We need to charge what we're worth. We have high value across the board. All the women that I speak to are art powerhouses in their own right. And speaking of that, when I walked in here, you had this cool, what was that? Like it's like a, what did you show me? Your warrior woman?
Oh, should we bring it in?
Bring it in.
It's the
So I walk in the door and I see like literally the perfect warrior women breastplate. And I said, this needs to be a part of the show.
This needs to be your uniform.
Yes, this needs to be my uniform.
This is like
So
the warrior
so
armor.
so look at this. So I walk into Ava's studio and there's warrior armor on the wall. She is a true warrior woman. When you hear the term warrior woman, what comes to mind?
I find that is a really good name.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And no, definitely. I mean, like raising the value and also standing up for our value. That I find that very hard. And but I also over and over in whatever, like panels or talks or discussions I am, like everybody says the same thing. Like there's so many artists, it's so hard to determine your own value and not get caught up in this, like, oh, I want the job, I want to bid for it, and then you underbid yourself.
Well, here's what I've noticed. Here, you can take this back. It's
It should be
really,
yours.
really, really cool. Oh, and I mentioned to Ava that I found something like this in Linda Fargo's closet in Bergdorf. I go in there always dreaming that I can buy things, right? And
Oh, really? Oh my God, I didn't hear that. So did it look like that?
and it costs like $12,000. And what did you tell me?
Cool.
Someone made this, right?
Yeah, a drag queen made that. I forgot what I paid for,
Unbelievable.
but
It's unbelievable. So I just wanted to talk about something for a second that I think is important. So when we talk about value, right? And we all have this problem as business owners. It's always hard, you know. You do a great job doing your service, right? Or talking about your service and doing your service, and then someone asks you how much do you charge? And if you've been in business a long time, you're used to people, like you said, haggling you, right? So I have found business owners that do well always invest in themselves and invest in their business. That is number one. So, to the artist standpoint, the artists that are afraid to pay usually aren't spending money on themselves in the way that they need to. So, I found in my talks, when I can talk to them about when they say, I don't have any money to hire you for whatever, I ask them how many guitars they own or how much they spend on rehearsal space. And they're like, oh, yeah, I spend money. So,
That's a good point.
so I want you to think about this because what Eva does for a living is not just for, no offense to the lawyers, I love working with lawyers, but also for all the artists out there, you know. This could be your main differentiator, especially if you're someone like an actor that needs that to sell yourself into the next project. How many actors are there? Like almost everyone I meet, right? So to sell yourself in, you need to invest in yourself. So people on panels can talk about values. I don't talk about that. It's, do you invest in yourself, right? Are you taking yourself seriously? And that's why I highly promote Eva and other amazing creative people that are out there helping other artists. So with that being said, any closing remarks? Anything you have coming up that you want to invite people to?
I have 2 shows. One is, I think it's on the 12th. I have to look now.
Of March?
April.
April. I was going to say, I think that's in 3 days.
It's in Williamsburg in the Shag store, which is
The Shag store.
It's a erotic store.
Okay, an erotic store, the Shag store. I mean, it's a good name.
It's called Shag, yes. It's been around for a long time.
Ah.
And it is...
And what are you doing there? Is it an art show?
Yes, because she always exhibits. The owner, female, always curates shows. And so there is usually like, you know, work that relates to, you know, to like sex positive or erotic work.
So that's on the 12th of April. And all of these things we're going to put in the show notes. I'm going to share with you her portfolio, which is absolutely amazing. You have 2 handles, right? You have Eva Mueller Photo. So Eva Mueller Photo and Eva Mueller Art, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll put these in the show notes.
The Eva Mueller Photo shows my portrait work and, you know, the quality of my lighting and the vision. The art is more all over the place, and it's more X-rated. It's okay. Self-censored, of course.
We're okay. My podcast guest previously today is in the female sexual health business.
Nice.
There's no fear here on Warrior Women in Business.
Oh, and the second one,
yes, the second one.
Just logged in today. It will be April 30th. It will be like the last of a month long, like an opening every day in Brian Whiteley's. He just secured a gallery on Broome Street. Ooh. And he's also the owner of Satellite Art Fair, and he is a very subversive artist himself. And so I'm really excited about that. It's like a 500 square foot space on Broome Street. It's like, you know, storefront window, and I don't know what I'll be showing. Probably work that I've never showed before, like a mix of almost like sort of like my New York diary. So that's going to be
evening event.
I don't know yet. It's probably all day event.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. All right. Okay, that sounds great. On Broome Street.
Yes.
Very nice. Okay, so we have April.
We have April
12th
to be determined around the 12th.
And April 30th. But anyways, we'll put these in the show notes.
One in Manhattan and one in Williamsburg.
Yeah, go to both. You got to come see Eva's work. Meet Eva. She's amazing.
And I have work up right now in the Revelation Gallery that's in the Village that opened 2 days ago. That opened on Tuesday.
Okay.
It's a show called In Memoriam. It's about how we deal with grief and loss. It's curated by Heidi Russell, who runs the International Women's Artist Salon.
Her name is
Jeannie, and Heidi is great. You should definitely
meet her. She's very familiar. But go ahead. So
I showed a piece that's very different from anything I've ever shown, because it was a very special piece that I shot and then just now finished and created. That was about like the loss of when the loss of my mom started to happen. It's a complicated story, but people responded really well, and it was an amazing event. So hopefully. Oh, no, you're busy at the other event. We're too busy at the women's event, because the artist talk is when you go to the gala.
I'll split it. You know I'm used to splitting time.
You clone yourself.
I just clone myself. This is what Warrior Women do.
Exactly.
All right, so we're going to put all these events in the show notes so everybody can come and meet Eva and see her work. Just a seriously, diversely amazing person with great work. And I want to thank Eva. You know, you're episode number 50. This is like a milestone.
I wish that would match my age, but
Oh, if it were if it was episode 25, it would match your age.
Oh.
So thank you so much, Eva, for being on.
Thank
And
you for having me.
Of course, anybody have any questions about photography, art, you got to meet Eva. You got to come to her shows, support her in the art community in New York City.
You come to my studio and you've never looked better.
This is true. So I'm just coming up on Warrior Women in Business. We have Pamela Rickman, who really is turning heads with her book on Candace Pert and the changes, taking Eastern medicine and bringing it to the Western world. So it's going to be really amazing next podcast. And we have a whole litany of podcasts to support Women's History Month. We have events coming up in New York. Hopefully Ava and I will do one. Sounds like a plan. As well as in Beverly Hills. So look on warriorwomenbusiness.com. Jasmine Sandler and Eva Mueller signing off.
Oh.